What's up, guys? It's another episode of the NS Builders Podcast. This week, we have a special guest. We have Doug, who's usually behind the camera or behind the microphone or wherever we might be creating some content. Wanted to get him on the podcast this week and talk a little bit. I want you to do all the talking because I'm usually the one that does.
Okay.
But let's talk about your career and how you ended up, basically coming here and filming us do crazy crap all day.
All right. So the very beginning, what really started it for me was getting into video as a whole. I'm sure many of you are around the age of 30 remember the show Jackass on MTV. Watching that, going like, oh, you could just pick up a camera, record stuff, and that idea just kind of...
You're serious?
I'm dead serious.
I did not know this.
I love movies. Like, that's part of it. But seeing Jackass, I know, as weird as that sounds.
All right, so funny story. I think it was 7th grade, we had to recreate a TV show. Like, we had to do something with the TV show. And we could make a poster board on one. Like, we had all these things, but we decided to recreate Jackass. And we called it Jack Butt because it was 7th grade. Right. So it was called Jack Butt. And we started filming it with like my high 8 camera, and then the teacher decided that it wasn't going to be a good look for her class and canceled it on us, and we were never allowed to share it. But it was like, I remember putting it together. So it's just funny, like, that this is what stemmed you today.
It really is. And it was around 6th, 7th grade, and that turned into skateboarding videos, which is really where I started editing.
Yeah.
On a gateway computer that would crash after editing a 60-second thing, and slowly but surely that's what I went to school for, Fitchburg State. That's where you and I met.
Yep.
Despite what anyone may think, Nick and I, we lived together. We lived in the same suite.
Yeah.
We weren't the best of friends. We were friends.
It was like I didn't really believe what you did, and you didn't believe what I did.
Yeah, like you were into
cars,
and you obviously carpentry.
And for whatever reason, I was kind of a dick in college, and I would like give you crap. I would be like, "Why are you wasting your money on blah blah blah?" And you're like, "You're wasting your money on cars," and we would just,
passionate debates.
Yeah.
But I out of college, I went to my degree in college was film.
Mm.
I don't shoot on film anymore. Literally, we shot on like 16 millimeter film.
And to be fair, I don't know if I even knew what his degree was.
Yeah. And I lived with all
construction guys.
Construction majors.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where it started. I don't know. That's where you and I met. But I got hired at a small ad agency right out of college, where I worked there about 4 years. And in my mind, that was kind of like a master's program.
Okay.
Where for about 6 months, I worked under another guy as an intern, and I learned more from him in that 6 months than I probably learned in college, to be honest.
Yeah, it's, I think about my career outside of college when I got, it allowed me to get a job, right? Like college basically sets you up to get a job that then teaches you everything that you thought you were going to learn in college.
Exactly.
That's basically that path, right?
Yeah. And on my first day of like film classes, one of the professors was like, "I'm going to save you a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of money. If you know anybody in the film industry, bye-bye. We don't need you. You've already got a leg up on everybody in this room."
Interesting.
Which was interesting. I didn't know anybody in the film, so I stayed, but...
You look around like, does anyone get up?
No,
because I'm following that guy.
No one got up. But yeah, so I went, worked there, and I had a good relationship with my boss. And I think it was his company. It was a husband-wife team. Mm-hmm. I have nothing bad to say about the people. Like, I love them for life. They took a chance on me out of college and set me up for the rest of my career thus far. And why I left was I just started getting that itch to do my own thing, and creatively my mind was starting to separate from where they were at in the direction of the company and that sort of thing. It wasn't so much, I hate these people, I need to go.
Sure.
And
The growth. It's growth.
it's
Yeah.
growing pains and all that. So I went out on my own at that point. You and I had started to talk a little bit.
Okay. I'm
You'd
sitting here trying to remember like how it came about. Like
probably three months before I left my first job there. You'd sent me a Facebook message or something of a festival video.
I used to be heavy on Facebook messages. Like I remember like
Well, that's what it was. I mean,
I know.
Instagram wasn't what it was in 2014.
I remember doing a lot of business like through Facebook Messenger, which now it's like when someone Facebook messages me, I'm like, yo, send me an email, dude. Here's my phone number. Text me.
But you sent me that video, and it was like, hey, can we do anything like this at some point? I know you do video. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. We didn't do that, whatever that video was.
Yeah.
So I was
out. Did we do the story for like the NS Builders video story before we did Tuckerman?
Yes.
That we shot for, you brought Brandon.
Yeah.
We shot for like 12 hours and we had zero footage. I was so bad.
So getting to that point, I'd been out on my own, and Brandon is actually the guy I was talking about at my first job.
Okay.
I'm sure he wouldn't mind me talking about it. We'll leave his last name out of it.
Yeah.
Friend, you know, we've worked together a lot, you know, great guy. I'd been doing, when I went out on my own, I've been doing some stuff with him. He threw me like, hey, you know, overflow work, stuff he doesn't really want to do.
Yeah.
And I saw you basically, you know, crushing it on Facebook and Instagram, starting up at that point. So I just Facebook messaged you like, hey man, I want to do your video and that sort of thing. And you're like, yeah, I just saw you're too busy. I'm like, no, let's
line it up.
Let's do this. And that first shoot you and I had, I don't remember what the budget was, but whatever it was, I hired Brandon to come like DP, and then we brought all the lights, all the gear.
You guys rolled in, yeah. And I was incredibly nervous I have no idea why. And we tried to script it. It was terrible.
I don't know if we ever used that video.
No.
But it came out decent.
If we should post it.
Yeah, we should.
Let's put it on YouTube private and then put it in the link.
I gotta find it
underneath this show.
I have it. I know I have it. So it's out there.
I'm actually really excited to see this.
It came out good. And then
I think it was.
Shortly after that was when Tuckerman started.
Yeah. So my wife and I bought that house, and I think we had always talked about like filming our work, and that was like, hey, this is an opportunity to film something that we're building. And that was fun. It was, right. I mean, that was when my company was me and Brian and Chris worked for me, and they were kind of part-time. I think Chris was maybe full-time at that point, but it was like, you know, I was belt on every single day. And I don't even remember how we scheduled it, but you would basically film all day, interview me at the end of the day, and then boom, we had a video.
So I should note, at that time I lived in Maine.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So that was the big hindrance at that time. I had to drive 2.5 hours.
So we'd do it for like phases. It was like framing, and it would only be one day of filming, so it wouldn't be all the framing done.
Right.
But it was like talking about what we were going to do and then catching B-roll.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think relatively speaking, it did well.
Yeah.
For what it was.
Yeah.
They were short. You know, they were 2 minutes, maybe most 5 minutes.
Right.
And then I think where we kind of left off from the Tuckerman thing was I kind of hit a wall being out on my own. I was doing other work, not so much at that point with other construction companies, but I don't know. I guess I got nervous or scared. I don't know which.
Yeah, you went back to work for someone.
Yeah, I went to work full time for like a mega corporation doing video.
And we continued to do things here and there, right?
We did. So later, when I was getting at a point of frustration there, I only worked there about 2 years. That wasn't ever going to last long. Yeah. I knew that was... we started doing stuff again, and I basically burned up all my accrued vacation time doing shoots with you.
See, another thing I didn't know about.
So, you know, double dip over there. But that's when it really started to snowball
Yeah.
to where we are.
So, I mean, this upcoming May will be 2 years for you.
Yep. May 1st.
Yeah. So, I remember, I'm going to, kind of condense it, but I remember reaching out at some point, and that was, you had started to do a couple videos for other guys in the industry.
Right.
And I tell this story all the time, and whether or not I'm exaggerating a little bit or not, I don't know. But basically, was scrolling through Instagram one day, and I caught a video, and I thought it was mine. And I was like, that's not my video. And it was because it was produced by you. And I was like, son of a bitch. I'm like I need his creativity wrapped up in what we do. Like, it's just, I didn't want, and I think at that point it was like, Doug, we got to figure this out. Like, figure out like what you make. Like, how do I get you on full time? I'll make it worth your while. Like, let's figure this out together. And we, I feel like every week we sit down and we have these epiphanies like, yo, we could do this and then bring it to this level. And right before we hopped on this podcast, you said it. You were like, COVID obviously impacted a lot of things, but we're at a point right now in 2021, early 2021, of picking right back up where we were starting to get our stride.
Yeah.
So, obviously your background, you come full time, but what I'd like to dig into is, really talk about like the model from your perspective. My perspective is that we're a builder. I want to document what we do. I throw 1,000 ideas at you. We're always changing it up. You're great about kind of just like, hey, this is what we need to do, and we'll tweak it. But I'd like you to talk about like if someone's listening to this and thinking about creating content for themselves. Let's even like remove the actually having a videographer, because most people out there are trying to just create content.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And I think from your side of things, and you can dig into it more, but not being in this industry, how did you go from being, not immersed in construction to producing construction related content?
Yeah. Well, I think first and foremost, I have an interest in carpentry and woodworking and construction in general.
Yeah. That's because you're from Maine, right?
Yeah, I guess. It is kind of strange that most people from Maine, in one way or another, have some sort of connection to...
It's like, I'm a finance guy, but I love carpentry.
You're right. It's weird. But I don't know. I mean, if I didn't like dust, like sawdust, and, coming home every day and having to air blow my camera off and having sawdust come out of every, and I don't even work on the saw, like,
Right.
If you don't like that, then you probably can't work in doing video on a construction site. But
what about, I think some of the early struggles, like I think about Tuckerman, you filmed for 12 hours to make a 2-minute video.
Yeah. And I'd speak partly, I didn't know what's what. Now I kind of have a better idea of, okay, if he's doing this, then this is coming next, vice versa. And I'm always still learning, like what I should be filming, what I can probably skip, right? Like what's kind of busy work or tedious stuff.
So what goes through your mind? And let's talk about site visit. When what's your thought process through that? Obviously that's you and I spending, a half a day together capturing as much as possible.
Right.
So what goes through your mind as far as these are the shots I need to get, obviously the interview is straightforward. I just chat. Right. But once we stop chatting, like you're going back and making sure you get particular footage.
I try if you spend any more than like 10 seconds talking about something, I try to get some piece of B-roll, whether it's of a detail or maybe in the past I have a shot of it being done or something. If you spend any more time than cursory talking about it, I try to cover it with some sort of B-roll.
Yeah.
And it's not always there. The site visits are very organic. You're as raw as site visit is, that's how it is. Like we show up and Nick's like, all right, I'm going to talk about these 3 things or whatever.
Right.
There really is no pre-production to that. There's no...
And that, I mean, that's something that was hard. Like we went back and forth, went really well, really produced content, curated content to
Right.
let's just document it. And we've went back and forth with that. And, I think Site Visit's a perfect, evolution of what we've done in the sense that it's quick, it's dirty, but it's refined enough where it, maintains interest and there's not a lot of unnecessary fluff.
Right. And it's packed with, or where it's not as refined and, showing every little detail and B-roll and kind of step by step, it is packed with information. And I think that's what, our audience, that gets bigger every day that's where the interest lies, is like those little insights, like those little moments. And there's probably 5 or 6 of those in an episode where it's just like, oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And that's just you kind of unfiltered talking, like sharing your knowledge. Or, in Ken's show, same thing, where it's something where you couldn't have scripted that moment of that, whatever it is, whatever you're talking about, a detail or whatever, it might just unlock something to the viewer.
Yeah.
Whether they're a builder or, doing their own kitchen or whatever. It's something special.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, we'll get into it in a second about the more produced stuff that we have in the works, but looking at Revealed, which is Ken's show, and Site Visit, which is mine, which is this weekly series, just kind of quickly run through, like, what does one of those episodes take for you?
As of
like, I got to film it. It takes me this much time. Like, run through that process, just so people. What I'm hoping people get out of this is just understanding, like, the commitment and what really goes into it. But maybe we'll dig into, like, what that means from a content perspective, or we'll share that later.
Right.
But what does one of those episodes take as far as time, effort, and process?
All right. So I think something we probably should have started off this episode by saying is, NS Builders is a construction company. When I show up to shoot, or we show up to shoot anything, we can't hinder what the guys are doing.
Right. This isn't This Old House. It's not.
Right. This is not a TV show.
And that's not a shot at them. Like, they do a great job, but they're like,
that's a different animal. Right.
It's TV. It's like, hey, you got to redo that, or we got to do another take on that. This is raw.
Which we do sometimes. It's like sometimes for a specific thing, I might ask someone to redo something.
Sure.
It's not that I'm not saying we don't do that, but for the most part, this is a full-time construction company. Nick has a ton of work to do. Ken has a ton of work to do. Mike has a ton. All the guys here at NS Builders are working their butts off full time, doing their duties, right? I can't interfere with any of that. But as far as I should have said that at the beginning of the show.
No, you're good.
Because I feel like sometimes in the comments, we all get caught up in comments. But it's like, all right, at the end of the day, this is a construction company, and I'm showing up and putting a camera in their face.
And we've seen the negative side of that. Negative meaning, like, the time hindrance.
Right.
We've done it where it's like we've spent a lot of time taken away from projects, and then it's like, how do we reflect that on the books? It's like that project looks like it's over budget, but the reality is, well, it's over budget because we spent a lot of time filming.
Right.
So that's a fair point.
And sometimes it can't be avoided. I take time away from the guys in the cabinet shop or the guys in the field, and they have to take note of that, right? I think you've kind of made that. But so Site Visit, you and I, we start at 8 and we try to end by noon or 1. So that's a 5-hour shoot. We probably walk away with 2 hours, maybe 3 hours of footage. Obviously, it's not going to be a 3-hour episode. That usually boils down to about a 20-minute, 25-minute episode. The bulk editing of that episode probably takes 4 to 5 hours. Then and then I got to make clips. And I'm making a promotional clip.
What's going through your mind when you're editing? Like, what are you thinking about, and like, what are you trying to remove?
You're trying to move the audience forward, right? While still making sense. Like a film, a good film has no throwaway words. every word in the film, every movement, every action is pushing the story forward.
Sure.
So that's kind of what's going through my head. Is the audience moving forward, or are we just right here? Like, what are we doing?
Interesting.
So if there's a segment where you kind of, which happens, sometimes you fall down a rabbit hole or something, I just cut it out. And the audience is never going to know the difference because
Right.
I'm moving you forward or trying to.
That could be a whole nother series, rabbit holes.
And then I'm sure there'll be some people like, oh, we want to see that stuff.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Right.
I don't know.
No, because it's like I usually even get caught. I'm like so far off base right here.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
It's good for you to do that. I can take it out.
Right.
Right. If it's good, it's good.
What about music?
I love to work with music. The issue we're having was with YouTube mainly. Like, we buy music licenses and we have all our documentation, but that
They
doesn't
flag it.
that doesn't necessarily compute with YouTube, which is fine. It's there are people stealing it. It's a mechanism that needs to be there to protect artists. I'm fine with it. So we're dabbling, working with some local people doing original music,
Which is awesome.
which is what we own it. You know, we pay them for the rights and all that forever,
Right.
and then it's ours.
Right.
And
It's also, I mean, cheaper. And I say that
yeah,
less expensive, I should say, because
it's a more expensive upfront cost.
but you get like we're not looking for new music all the time, or we're not paying like a monthly subscription to use a particular song.
And
You're-
that's another side of that is I was spending an incredible amount of time looking for music because I don't just pick anything.
well, I follow Kiefer's brother, Lineback Media, and it's like every time on his story, it's like looking for music, and it's like that's what he spends. He was like, you know, I think he posted something like, anyone that edits film knows that the most amount of time you spend is looking for a song.
It's yeah, it can be.
Yeah,
It certainly can be. And it's sometimes you just luck out at that song's right there.
well, then you have me, where it's like, hey, I'm feeling kind of country this year. It's like, you know what? I actually want to slow it down. Can we have more piano?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait, I want a rock and roll song for this one.
Right.
So it's like you're walking away like, son of a bitch. Like
The music
totally
is
different category.
Going back to what I was talking about where we started, you know, the show Jackass and skateboard videos. Those edits really they're really tied together with great music.
Right.
Like I don't know if skateboard videos are popular. Probably Instagram's kind of
Brought him
taken
back.
away from those in a way.
Okay.
Well, because they'll just be like quick hits. Like,
Well, I know I mean I definitely watch skateboarding videos. I watched dirt bike and quad videos.
yeah.
There was like this series called Huevos,
Oh, okay.
and it was like literally my entire music album came from watching those videos.
Yeah.
And they were all bands that I've never heard of.
That's most of the music I still listen to now is from, 2004 to 2008 music from skateboard videos.
Yeah, dude, it's like I'll put music on at my house. My wife's like, "Who is this?" And she's like, "Where do you learn about them?" And it's all from those videos.
Yeah.
And it's I remember talking to people. It's like I'm just gonna throw them out there. It's gonna be hilarious if anyone listens to them. But it's like I remember Spine Shank. It's like a new metal band, and I've never met one person in my entire life that's known who they are. And I had all their albums because I thought they were awesome. Like I think it's Billy Talent, Turbo Negro. They were like over in the UK. They were awesome. They're like totally different style music, but it stuck with me. And like I think I never really attributed back to like that's what made those films so great. But it's absolutely what it was. Like it worked with the shots that they would get.
Yeah, it really brought it home, if you will. Like it really tied everything together.
So, all right. So we're talking so far. We're at 10 hours basically to create a video.
It's probably more than that. I mean, I meant 4 or 5 hours of the base editing, and then with clips and promo and uploading, which takes time. You know, it's something you have to factor in, and then you got to write a description. You got to make tags. You got to upload it to Dropbox to make sure you have all the content you need, and as well as once the video is up, then we got to get subtitles, and then you know,
And
when it
subtitles
comes,
are huge. I mean, we're giving away a couple secrets here, but
we just use a service. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
doesn't matter.
You can just Google it.
Yeah.
I literally picked the first thing on Google.
But but the point is, and I'm gonna make this number up, but like 85% of the audience is watching these videos without sound.
Yeah.
So that's why, you know, subtitles are so important, especially if you're talking about something.
Right. And YouTube's auto generated.
They're close, but
They're pretty decent.
Yeah.
But having, you know, a human do it, it's like 99 or 95% plus.
right.
And they don't always get it with the construction terminology. Sometimes throw them off, but
Yeah.
for the most part, it's pretty dead on.
I'm gonna throw a right hook here, and we're not gonna give all this away, but you know, we did the math on this, and one of these videos creates how many pieces of content are we creating off of that?
So we've played around with that. One video can produce anywhere from, like a site visit, for
Yep.
instance, 20 to 40 pieces of content.
So if you guys are interested in learning more about that, put a comment below and maybe we'll dig into it in the future. But and we can, you know, we're refining our content model.
Yeah,
but
and
the
we're
point
not
of that,
we're not reinventing the wheel either. But it's
not at all.
something we're happy to share.
maybe.
I'm
just kidding. But I think that what the point is like what I wanted to really highlight is the fact that, you know, let's call it 2 days worth of work, filming and editing, you know, for site visit. Then you're doing that for revealed.
Right.
Then we're, you know, the podcast, you know, is obviously less
it's a little
work.
quicker.
But then you're from those, you're then producing what I call is like micro content,
Right.
that we can distribute across different platforms.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to talk about is this project that we're working on behind the scenes.
Yep.
Crafted.
Yep.
So Crafted, if you know anyone that has been paying attention, we've released a few episodes. These have been they've been experiments.
Right.
So now we're talking about we're actually producing this in the background and we'll release it at a future date.
Yep.
And this is a much more refined project.
Yeah.
So what is going into that for you? I know what goes in for me, but what is going into creating, I guess to elaborate, it's basically going to be a more documented series around some of our projects.
Right.
And you guys will have to stay tuned for like more information as far as like how that's structured and when our release dates are. But it will be, you know, much more like a TV show that follows the process and really highlights the people, the how, and the most important, the why we do what we do. But for you, that's a lot of content. What's going through your mind with the producing of that?
So we've produced 5 or 6 episodes of Crafted. The first one being, it'll be about a year ago in April. That required a lot of shooting. So an episode of site visit is 4 hours. That first episode of Crafted was like 30 hours, maybe more, and a lot of editing. And this Crafted is more like I wouldn't even say this old house is more of a, like, you know, there's constantly being cuts there. You know, we're not staying too long on anything. It's a really highly produced series. Mm-hmm. It's going to be. There's just a lot. There's a lot that goes into that. And the past episodes we were kind of going, you know, there really wasn't a lot of pre-production.
Right.
We were just kind of testing it out, trying it out. I think we've had some better ideas on how to have pre-production, and, you know, that's key to any project.
Right.
You know, most Hollywood films, that's where they die, you know, in pre-production.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, if they can't make the numbers work and the schedules work on paper, the project doesn't get done.
I got you.
Right. That I oversimplified that. There's a lot of things that go into that, but
understood.
That's where most films die.
Yeah.
They never, you know, what crazy percentage never even get to production.
Right.
And then post and then released. Each step, you know, kind of knocks them down. So that goes for any piece of content you're watching, except YouTube, where you have control and lawyers don't, essentially. Right. For the most part.
So it really comes down to it's just more you're doing a lot more planning.
Planning's a factor, you know.
And you're essentially collecting content.
Yeah, we're really storing it up.
So you're talking about pre-production, but then there's a ton of post-production.
There's a ton of production, there's a ton of post-production. And in the post for this series, we're probably, we're going to use music, and we're going to have to tango with that with YouTube and stuff. But it just elevates any production to incorporate music.
Yeah. So let's leave anyone listening with some tips.
Yep.
So talking about producing video, let's stick with video, right?
Yeah.
Guys out there that want to up their social media game or their video production or documenting what they do, what are some of the things that they should be paying attention to, especially early on, say they don't have a Doug?
Yep. Which most people do not have a Doug. First of all, your phone is a incredibly powerful tool. It's not to be overlooked. If anybody should be worried, it's people like me, because phones are getting so good, in reality.
I sent Doug this this package the other day, like, hey, this turns my phone basically into the same camera you have. He's like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd be looking for A, you know what you like, B, you know what you don't like. So that's a great place to start. Like, all right, I really like what this guy and this guy's doing. Mm-hmm. How can I do that with what I'm doing? Right. If I'm a framer and I'm trying to break into Instagram or YouTube or whatever, mm-hmm. What are other framers on YouTube doing that you want to see done? Like, where's the hole?
Yeah.
Where do I fit? What can I bring to the table that this guy's not?
Right.
Right. And that's anything, right? What can I do that differently or better? And maybe they're already doing it and you just want to do it better.
Right.
Or your spin on it.
Right.
No one's seen your spin on it.
Right. And not to discredit if you see what someone's doing and you just want to straight up copy the way they film, there's no issue with that, because
that's how the film industry works.
Right. It's, that you're basically looking at what they're doing and you're going to naturally try to do it better or put your spin on it, because you can't mimic something entirely.
Like, if you've ever watched an Alfred Hitchcock film, every film since then has probably taken something from one of his films.
Right.
And he probably took his stuff from somebody else that you never heard of, and so on and so forth. Since film started, we take from each other and build up, right, and put our own spin on it. Probably can be said the same thing about construction.
Right.
Anything. There's a lot of parallels between construction and filmmaking, actually.
Yeah. I mean, we're constantly looking at what others are doing and improving ourselves. Like, nothing that we have done is truly original.
Right.
Exactly. It's something that has come from somewhere else, and we've adapted and made it our own or better.
Right. Oh, and there's something to be said, like, don't straight up.
Plagiarize.
Plagiarizing is not good. That's not what I'm condoning. Right. But it's like, hey, this guy shot this thing a certain way. I'm going to shoot it the same way too, right, but with our content.
Yeah. Or it's like this guy puts a drone up and then puts the roofing on. I'm going to put my drone up and put my roofing on.
That's how we move forward.
Right. So what equipment are you using? Because I know everyone asks that.
Do they?
Well, I just feel like everyone's like, what do you shoot with? Someone asked me the other day, like, oh, what's Doug use? I'm like, I have no idea.
This camera is getting older. It's a GH5. I've had it for probably 4 years now.
Is that a Panasonic?
Panasonic GH5.
Mm-hmm. Special lens on it?
No, I just have it's a Leica 8 to 18 millimeter. It's a micro four thirds lens. It's a micro four thirds camera. If I could go back in time, knowing what I know now, I'd probably pick this camera.
You wouldn't have?
Probably not.
Okay.
It's not the best in low light, which is predominantly what we work in.
In construction, which I feel like an a-hole when I text Doug. I'm like, hey, why does the color look off? And he's like, because we haven't bought the new camera yet. And I'm like, okay.
A new camera doesn't fix everything, but
yeah,
it can be a struggle when we have mixed lighting and we're in a corner, and
So that's actually,
it's not always going to look the way we want it to look.
and that's a tip that we actually adapt to the job sites. Our job lighting, it's important that it's a certain hue,
So
and we've made sure that all the light bulbs are always all
I think
the same.
we've tried to implement that going forward
Yeah.
on projects where, so sunlight light is there's temperatures of Kelvin.
Yep.
So sunlight is roughly 5,600 Kelvin.
Mhm.
You can buy light bulbs that are 5,600 Kelvin.
Yep.
It makes things easier
Right.
if you try to match it with the sun, as opposed to getting, the
Like 3,000
the
is
incandescents
yeah,
that are
it's-
3,200.
right. So it's more yellow.
It's more yellow, yeah, and sunlight's more blue.
So that's camera, lens. What else are you using for this production? Microphones.
Yeah, something people overlook, which is probably one of the most important things, is sound.
Yeah.
I have a sound devices.
People will actually stop watching a video if the sound is bad.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, you need to have good audio.
Yeah.
So we have a handful of different microphones that we use.
Yeah. We just use Rode Lav mics. Nothing complex. They are probably they're not budget friendly, I guess. I think mine are $400.
And that's just a down the shirt wire. It goes into your pocket.
Yeah,
to this
wireless. Still wireless. Yeah.
And then you walk around with this thing on your hip.
Yeah, that's the sound device 3 pre. It's just a sound recorder, records the SD cards.
Mm-hmm.
I plug my mic into that. I think I can plug 3 mics into it, 3 pre. You can get a 6 pre.
Mm-hmm.
That is I don't know what it costs now. I got it a few years ago. It was probably $600, $600.
Mm-hmm.
That's a super versatile thing, because when I upgrade the camera, the sound, there's not much advances in sound.
Sure.
So the sound recorder kind of holds its place.
Yep.
That'll be something that'll last for 15 years probably.
Right. So kind of breaking this down, someone out there that wants to produce, content for themselves, absolutely can use their phone.
Yeah, you can get mics for your phone.
Right.
You can get nice labs for your phone.
But I think in general, it's, you don't have to buy an expensive camera. You don't have to buy an expensive camera.
Nope.
But sound, if you're going to spend, buy sound first.
Yes. Yep.
And we actually, Rode actually makes an adapter for your phone.
Yeah.
So if you want to record, you can actually plug in one of those lav mics to your phone. I know they make wireless ones, but we have the wired one. So your sound is really good quality. Oftentimes you see, even on mine, like Instagram stories, the sound is a little crappy, and trying to be better about using the mics.
Yeah, construction sites are tough. Right. I mean, there's so much going on. Like last week we had
site visit last week.
Somebody was multi-tooling.
If you guys saw the episode, it's when I'm talking about the little orange, it's called a pokey, and it's where the wire comes out of the wall, and I'm literally like yelling, and I watched that video. I'm like, I sound like I'm like, so this thing in the wall is called a pokey, and I'm like, yelling over the multi-tool.
It really drowns out the sound pretty good, but when it's something super loud, it's unavoidable.
And then beyond that, it's really just music. Adding music to things helps, and I think a perfect example of seeing the success of that is TikTok.
Yeah,
everything is based around music in that, and it's what makes creators even better.
And TikTok's a very powerful video creating platform.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not getting the hang of it yet.
It's catered to video editing, and you see some really creative work on there. For sure.
So I know we've been talking about, so with respect to the camera, you talk about the GH5 being kind of outdated. I wouldn't say outdated. It's just, there's been a lot of improvements since it came out. Sure. We've kicked around. I actually said, we had Build Wit on our Modern Craftsman podcast, and he uses all reds. I'm like, Doug, let's just price out a red. And he sends me a thing. I thought he was sending me the price of a house he was buying.
Reds are, I think they recently did come out with a more approachable camera, but it's a modular camera.
Right, which I know nothing about.
Yeah, which means it's very expensive.
Right. So if you were right now, if hey, no budget, like someone that wants to get into this that does want to buy a professional camera, which way are you going?
I am going Canon. You can get a really decent Canon that mirrorless. I'm trying to think of it if it's the M50. I can't think of the model numbers escape me.
Mm-hmm. But so why are you going that route?
I just think Canon cameras tend to get color right. I don't know. I just have a preference for it.
Yeah.
You could ask another videographer, he'll tell you Sony has the best color and so on and so forth. For me, Canon just kind of nails it. But they make some decent, approachable $500, $600 cameras you can start shooting with.
Yeah.
And do pretty decent. And that's not to say Sony doesn't.
Right.
There's a Sony equivalent.
No, but this is just your preference.
Yeah.
With speaking of color, that's something that we struggled with in the beginning. Yep. And I'm looking across the room at this giant monitor sitting on your table. Talk to me, what was that about?
So this camera, as great as it is, this is recording right now, is GH5. It's a DSLR. Well, it's not. Anyway, it's not a video camera. It's a still camera that shoots video. So there's a lot of things with it that this is actually a highly functional video, a still camera that shoots video. It's kind of geared towards video people, but it's missing some of the hardwired functions of a video camera. And one of those things for me is white balance. This camera just can't find white like a video camera.
Sure.
Which is just designed to hold up your white card, set white. With this camera, I don't know if it's my camera, I don't know if it's me. I can't get white balance where I want it all the time.
Yep.
Whereas we rented a video camera this summer and it was kind of just like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit, I forgot what this is like.
But what is it? So how does that tie back to the monitor?
So the monitor, for those that use iMacs,
yep.
iMacs operate in a different color space. If I had known this when I bought my iMac, I never would have bought my iMac. The color space most videos should be kind of working in is Rec 709. I'm not a color engineer. I'm not.
That's fine.
I don't want to go down that road because there'll be a million people to roast me about how I'm stupid. But we needed to get a monitor, essentially that was in Rec 709 color space. Hence why we bought that monitor I'm using right now.
Right. Because
your computer is tethered to your monitor.
Right.
It's an iMac Pro, to be precise. I bought that before coming to NS Builders. And I didn't really have issues because people probably didn't know what they were looking at, or maybe they didn't want to say anything. For the most part, it probably hits the mark.
Right.
You're really not going to notice. But when you're really trying to nail something, you're like, it's just not right. And that's because Mac monitors work in P3 color space or something like that. Their own variant of it.
Right.
Apple has their own, they play by their own rules, so to speak. So when you shouldn't use an Apple monitor to color correct at the end of the day. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah. I'm sure someone's going to be like, no, you can, but you just have to do this, which is fine.
Good for you.
The point.
Great.
The point was.
Yeah, go start your own YouTube channel and talk about it. That's fine.
For the record, Doug
I was so frustrated at the time.
Yeah.
Because I never would have. It was a very expensive investment.
Yeah.
And then I'm coming to you like, hey man, could we
buy this 32-inch?
It was a 32-inch monitor.
32-inch monitor.
Yeah, we went big.
And then you sent me the price. I'm like, whoa, what the?
Yeah.
But what is the monitor? Do you remember?
The cost?
No, the
BenQ.
It's a BenQ.
I think. You might pronounce it different. I don't know.
No.
I'm bad with that stuff.
Either way.
I'm not a gearhead.
Well, I have already said this before, but last question. What is your favorite thing to be filming here?
Ooh, favorite thing to film here?
Or your favorite part of what you do here?
My favorite thing to do is editing. That's kind of where I'm most creative.
I'm so glad you didn't say film Ken's bloopers.
Film, yeah, that is fun to edit though.
If you guys haven't seen the bloopers, Doug, you post them on your Instagram page.
Yeah, which is NSB Video. That is not run by Nick. It's run by me. I don't know. I feel like that's a common
really?
Common mistake.
People reach out thinking it's me?
Yeah, that's why I send you like screenshots. Like, hey, this guy reached out.
Oh, that's funny. No, NSB Video is all Doug. He's crushing that, putting the behind the scenes. I'm only behind NS Builders. That's it. But maybe, yeah, I think in the future, maybe we dig into our content model as we, further produce it. And, obviously super excited about the Crafted series. We'll share more about that later, but if you can picture almost a TV or a Netflix style show, really well produced and a full start to finish of a project, it's going to be really fun. But until then, obviously, site visits on Tuesday, Revealed is dropped on Wednesday, and of course, the NS Builders podcast today,
Thursday,
which is Thursday.
Yeah, so we record this right before it launches.
Right before it launches. All right. So if people can find you, you're at NSB Video.
NSB Video.
And I'm at NS Builders. Make sure you guys tune in every week, Thursday, for the podcast on any of your podcast apps. If you're listening to this on YouTube, drop a comment below. Let us know what you like, maybe a timestamp, and we'll make sure we address it in a future episode.
Thank you.